Hello and welcome to Onesies, the podcast where we talk about one season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
My name is Emily.
And we are talking about Freaks and Geeks, the 1999 one season NBC comedy drama created by Paul Feig and executive produced by Judd Apatow. And this week we're talking about episodes 10 and 11 in order.
11 and 12.
What?
11 and 12.
11 and 12. Fine. Just be that way. So the first one we're talking about, I remember the name of the episode is The Garage Door.
Correct.
Okay, so let's have your three items that we don't want to miss.
Okay. I have Ken Speaks. I have Dopey Dad Comedy. And Even If She Gets Old and Fat.
Okay. I have Misogyny's Funny, Marathon Man, and I won't do that one, but still. That was funny. And UHF.
Okay.
So I'm being obscure. But the first thing we have to talk about, well, actually, it is in mine. It is part of Misogyny's Funny. It's Joe fucking Piscopo.
Oh, my God.
They love them some Joe Piscopo.
Neil does not, though. This is a moment where Neil shows a little bit of foresight.
His dad loves Joe Piscopo,
His
right?
dad loves Piscopo, but he misses Bill Murray, understandably so.
Okay. And there's a line about, so the boys are having a sleepover at Neil's and they're watching Saturday Night Live because they finally got permission to show Saturday Night Live on the show clips. And somebody's asking why it has to be on so late. And Neil says, because Chevy Chase couldn't call her an ignorant slut at 7:30 or something.
That's Dan Aykroyd.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Jane, you ignorant slut is Dan Aykroyd.
No, it was Chevy Chase and Jane Curtin on the...
I'm pretty sure it's Dan Aykroyd, but whatever.
Hold on. You talk while I do research.
So they're showing a clip of Joe Piscopo being Joe Piscopo, I guess. And like I said, Neil is lamenting the loss of Bill Murray, and everybody else thinks Piscopo's hilarious. I think Bill might still be sleeping at this point.
Yeah, Bill's asleep. It is Dan Aykroyd. Sorry.
Damn.
Okay,
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. You're bragging that you know which one of them was a bigger piece of shit. So there you go. I'm sorry. I assumed it was Chevy Chase. Everything else since then has sort of implied it was going to be Chevy Chase.
Everything else leading up to this moment has implied that Chevy Chase would have. Maybe he wrote it.
Maybe he wrote it for him. Though I guess, Dan Aykroyd didn't exactly handle himself well when they replaced the Ghostbusters with girls, but whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the opening, was the combination of Joe Piscopo and the dad. Neil's dad is in on it. Neil's dad's going to figure in very much to this episode.
Yeah, and he's doing impressions of things. I think he does Sammy Davis Jr. and a couple of other things. He seems to be the perfect actor to play Neil's dad, Neil Sam Levine, who does a lot of impressions as well. So it gets kind of funny, if not a little problematic. And they've put a bunch of stuff on sleeping Bill so when he wakes up, it all falls off of him and he's got stuff sticking out of his ears. That was pretty funny. And he's like, "Oh, why do you guys always put stuff on me?" It was kind of cute. That's how it opens. I don't remember how it opens with the Freaks.
The Freaks is actually with Seth Rogen watching the band practice, marching band practice.
And making fun of them. Yeah.
And making fun of them. And do we learn there? No, he's just teasing the trombone player. And Lindsay seems to know her. And then Lindsay makes a comment that she knows how to play an instrument better than he can sing.
Yeah.
And then his response is, "Well, why don't you just break up the band to make out with Nick?" "Oh, you already did that."
And then Nick runs to Lindsay's defense by smacking Ken on the arm. And then apologizing to Lindsay. "I'm so sorry you said that. I'm so sorry you said that." As if Lindsay's actually taking it personally, She seems to just brush it off.
Yeah.
The next thing I have on my list, and this is, I'm assuming I wrote it in order that they came up in the episode, is fat jokes. So when they meet her again, she makes a bunch of fat jokes about him. But there's got to be something that happened before that.
There is. Neil is over for dinner. And this is where the Atari subplot gets in.
Right.
And there is some talk about red meat and heart disease. Basically, Neil is laying the dentist science on the Weir family, which
and
is
he kind of grosses everybody out by talking about his dad at work, which kind of sets up the plot for the dad, where, oh, my dad was at work late and he told me this story about this thing.
Yeah,
that was really gross.
And is this where she's eating? Yeah, and they're eating food. And Lindsay. So we also get some of the Neil crush on Lindsay here a little bit. But also we get Canada Joe being just like full of shit and like an asshole because Sam wants an Atari and Dad says the welfare rolls are going to be full of video game players. And Lindsay's like, that's not fucking true. Yeah. And Dad's like, oh, it could be, but they're going to be doing a lot of, it could be true next episode. So we'll save the bullshit for that. But yeah, the end is she scarfs down her meatballs and runs off so she can go to the library.
So those meatballs are huge. There's no way she could have.
It's common.
Yeah.
And then the boys also do it as a sight gag. So that's a funnier sight gag. I think this is the episode directed by Brian Gordon, who I looked up, and the only other thing that I recognized that he directed was Career Opportunities, that fucking awful movie, but it's a like object lesson in objectification, including Leonard Maltin perving on teenage Jennifer Connelly. Cool. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah. Anyway, but I have a lot of feelings about the direction of this episode. Like, it just is odd. It's an oddly directed episode, especially because it's going to focus on Neil more and Ken more than the Weirs. But then we find out Lindsay is not going to the library to study. She lied to her. She's back to lying to Canada Joe. She's going to the diner to hang out with the freaks. And I'm like, shouldn't we have the diner as more of a regular hangout place in this show? But
yeah, is it a pizza place? I don't know. They get fries or something, but it could serve a whole bunch of things.
Yeah,
but yeah, that seems like a pretty standard teenage trope, like teenage television show trope. They hang out at the Peach Pit or whatever.
Yes, we don't need to make the list of things that Beverly Hills 90210 is actually better at than the show. But yes, the Peach Pit would be an example. Also, but this is the scene where we talk about all the we get introduced to all the relationship stuff, or the romance stuff, teen romance stuff. So is this where we find out Ken has a crush on Trombone Girl yet? Later.
Tuba Girl, actually, but yeah, it is later.
Girl, but it's the same scene. It's just split. But this is where we have Nick talking about how he broke up with Lindsay and she's obviously still in love with him. And somebody tells Nick that didn't fool anybody. But this is where Ken gives Lindsay the advice to be a bitch to Nick.
Yeah.
So he'll like stop crushing on her. This is never, I feel like either they cut this or it just never got filmed, but it is not an actual plot.
I think that maybe Lindsay is trying to be a bitch when later on she gets invited to the Laser Dome and she's like, well, whatever, like maybe I'll go. I think that's her trying to be a bitch and they run with that. I honestly do. I know you got this look on your face like there's no way that's it, but I think that's it.
I mean, okay, whatever. I mean, it's from the director of Career Opportunities.
Yeah, I don't think it's a very good execution of that, but I think that's what it's supposed to be. We get Daniel telling Nick that he needs to play it cool. Like, you need to not talk to her, not look at her. So essentially kind of giving him the same advice to try to win Lindsay back. You need to be aloof. You need to be like, you need to just chill out. You're being too much. And if you chill out, then she won't be able to contain herself. She'll come running back to you. But they also make the joke, like, whatever you do, just don't sing to her again. From that episode where he sings that terrible Rush song. That was hilarious callback.
Because he couldn't write her a poem like he wrote the Stalked Girl poems.
He was traumatized by that. And on the way out, they run into Tuba Girl. I know you rolled your eyes. They run into Tuba Girl, and she gives Ken so much shit, about him being, this is where she makes a fat joke. But she's giving it just as much as he was giving it to her. And so I think that is the moment when he realizes he has a crush on this girl, because he kind of stands there looking around like, what is this I'm feeling, as everybody else walks away. And she makes a comment about his sideburns, and he starts like fiddling with his sideburns. And I will say, I like a man with sideburns, but his sideburns are not something that.
See you later, Elvis. Good luck with those mutton chops.
Yeah.
In between this, we meet Neil's mom. She comes to pick up Neil at the house, and she talks to the Weir mom about her life, which includes tennis lessons and a full-time job. Or she doesn't actually have a full-time job. I thought she did, but that was carting Neil around. But she's a little bit more shishi poo-poo than the Weirs.
Yeah, they're a little bit more upper crust.
Yes, which we already established with the knowing what science is. Canada Joe doesn't know what science is, which we'll find out more in the next scene, which is my UHF scene.
Yeah.
They are at a appliance store, and the salesman who helps Sam and his mom is David Bowe, who is from UHF, and pretty much nothing, and some commercials. Yeah. And I believe he does Christian movies now. But in this scene, we find out that Canada Joe does not want his wife to have a microwave because it'll make her fucking lazy when she cooks him dinner. And I'm just like, how perfect is that for all of this? Let's be less progressive than Diner, which was set in the 50s and was made in 1982. Cool. Piece of shit. Okay.
And so Sam wanders away from his mom to look at the Ataris because he has been wanting an Atari. And Neil's parents promised him an Atari for his birthday. And why can't I have one too? And he sees Dr. Schreiber from a distance. And he calls out his name, takes a couple steps closer forward, and sees him with another woman, not Mrs. Schreiber. Beautiful blonde woman whose name I forget. And Dr. Schreiber tries to manipulate the situation a little bit. Hey, kiddo, blah, blah, blah. This is my friend from high school. God, I can't believe I ran into her, even though you're 15 years younger than me. Wow. And tries to play it off like it's no big deal. And, you can't tell anybody because I'm going to buy Neil an Atari. So you can't tell Neil you saw me here. And here comes the moral quandary for Sam. So he's concerned about what to do. The rest of the storyline for Sam is he's worried about telling Neil, first of all. And then the larger idea is that he doesn't understand why anybody would ever cheat on their partner. He doesn't understand why anybody would cheat on their husband or wife. He doesn't understand, like, he's curious now if his parents have the capability or his dad has the capability to do that. Essentially, the mothers would never do something that atrocious.
Considering
right?
Where I thought it was going, I'm actually glad they didn't do that. Yeah. So we'll talk about that later, but they actually didn't go that far, because that's why you don't let a woman have a microwave, because then she'll step out. But anyway, so that's Sam's problem. And then it's at school, and Kim and Lindsay are talking about going to the Laser Dome. And this is where we get the
boys are actually talking about it, because Nick is like all obnoxious about Pink Floyd at the Laser Dome. And they all agree to go, and Lindsay and Kim happen upon them. And Kim gets really mad because apparently Daniel, when they were on a break, and I'm using finger quotes for listeners, took another girl to Laser Dome and apparently got some in some capacity some vagina or boobies
or something.
So,
and that's actually going to be one of the bigger subplots, is that Kim is not happy that Daniel did this.
And that now he wants to take her there.
Yes.
She's insulted that this place that she wasn't at when it happened is so traumatic for her. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. And that's when, Kim asks Lindsay, "Oh, are you going to go?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then she kind of looks at Kim and goes, I mean, whatever, maybe. And I think that is her attempt at being a bitch. There may have been other scenes that were cut of her being bitchy, but I just don't think she has it in her necessarily, unless it's for her own personal gain. Like, she has it in her to be a bitch. Don't get me wrong. I just think in a situation where she has to intentionally be a bitch, she can't do that.
I think it's just bad writing.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway. So the geeks, speaking of some good writing, why do I have turd on the end of my bed written down? I just do. It's a Bill line. It's a Martin Starr line. But basically, Neil got his Atari, and they're going to go hang out at 3:30 and play Asteroids. Bill's down. Sam's not too sure about it because Neil's also like, my dad's the coolest. And Sam's kind of like, your dad's not the coolest. I know something. And so he immediately tells Bill the story, including showing Bill how they hugged. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know that the hug demonstration is like, I don't know. Like, we're going off of a hug here. That's quite a lot. Like he didn't
stroke her backside.
No,
he wasn't nibbling on her neck or on her earlobe or anything. It was just a hug, but it was a long hug.
It was a long hug, but I mean, it doesn't matter because he is having an affair with her. Anyway, so manly hugs in the lunchroom is what my note was. But then there's something about secrets and Bill revealing that.
So Bill is arguing to Sam that they have to tell Neil. We don't keep secrets from one another. And Sam's like, that's easy for you to say. You've never had a real secret. To which Bill replies, remember that time I farted in...
It was a poop.
I farted in class, but it came out of poo, and I laughed so hard.
So good.
The delivery of that line is so perfect because he kind
Martin Starr.
It came out of poop. It came out of poop. It was so funny. Oh my God. I love it so much.
Good.
And he had to flush his underwear down the toilet. Sorry, I have this mental image of Bill Haverchuck freeballing for half a day at school. Sorry.
All right, moving on to the freaks. Thank you. This is where we find out that Ken is actually in love with Tuba Girl. Daniel sees him looking in at her during band practice. Ken's looking in from the hallway, and Daniel's like, "I'll talk to Lindsay to talk to you about it," and then or to talk to her or something. And that scene is that Seth Rogen, for the first time on this show, has a subplot of his very own.
Yeah, the very first time. And it's fantastic. I mean, it's not fantastic, but it's nice that he has like a personality now beyond just being the snarky friend. The guy who jumps in to cut people down,
Right. I mean, it's overdue and better than our 4 episodes with Nick.
Yeah.
So then we're back to the geeks and they're playing Asteroids. There's a line about how Sam peed on the...
Some point in between this, though, do they tell Neil or do they tell Neil later?
This is the scene where they tell Neil. They tell Neil during Asteroids.
During Asteroids. Okay, I'm sorry.
And it opens with Sam going to pee first. And Bill tells Neil.
Yes.
Is what it is. Sam doesn't tell Neil. Bill tells Neil. And then there's a demonstration of the hug. But first,
an attempt.
First, we find out that Sam doesn't lift up the seat when he pees standing up. And so he peed all over Neil's toilet the last time he was there, which is fucking weird.
Teenage boys can be icky.
Okay, well, we're also going to find out that Sam's a nitwit or something. this episode. If we're to believe the writing, he's a numbskull. So we'll get to that. But yes, so they tell Neil about his dad. Neil does not believe them. Neil starts
You're just jealous, Bill, because you don't have a dad.
And Bill says, I talked to him 3 months ago.
Oh, that made me sad.
Yeah. It has a nice echo in the next episode, though. But then once Dad gets there, Sam and Bill are like, let's get the fuck out of here, man. So they head out with Dad following them, trying to confirm things are still cool with the boys. But no.
And then mom comes home and she's too tired to cook. So
there's something about the car there, because we still haven't gotten to the garage door and we're more than halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
So that's going to come up. But first we've got a scene with Daniel and Kim where, how does this make sense in my notes? Daniel and Kim have a scene after 3:30 in school, but before Sam gets home from.
But remember,
Neil's.
He get home late? He gets home late and his mom is concerned, like, you need to call me if you're going to be home this late, because I was worried about you.
School. Yeah, we don't know what he and Bill were talking about or doing after they left Neil's. But if they went to Neil's after school, how could the next scene be Kim and Daniel in class?
Oh, yeah. Good question.
Because this is a fucking weird school that starts at 6:30 in the morning and goes till 6 at night. And the scene requires.
They're in study hall and they're sitting for some reason, with somebody in between them. Maybe it's assigned seating. And Kim decides to use this person as an intermediary to talk to him when actually she's talking to Daniel, because he can hear her, questioning him, like, if you had a boyfriend who fingered somebody at the Laser Dome, would you want to go to the Laser Dome with your boyfriend? And it makes him very uncomfortable, this kid. And he realizes it's time for him to go, which I also was like, does he have a boner from Kim talking about, like, fingering another girl? Like, does he have a boner about that? And that's why he needs to go to the bathroom? But I don't think so. I think he's just excusing himself. Yes. So that they can have a conversation. And we had learned previously that Daniel's strategy was to let Kim just wear herself down. So she gets upset and she rails and rails and rails and rails and rails against him until she just gives up. And so he's just kind of playing it cool. I understand. I hear what you're saying. Yes, that's terrible. Da, 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 da. And he doesn't fight back. And she ends up getting frustrated with him. But he doesn't seem to genuinely understand what her problem is, which is unfortunate. And he doesn't seem to want to try to understand it either. He's just literally just playing this game with her, trying to get her to stop being a bitch.
James Franco. So then Sam gets home after the juniors or seniors are still in class there, and he's late. And he's like, Mom wants to talk to him, but he wants to do his homework because he's weirded out by his experience at Neil's. And then she informs him that Neil's dad called to let him know that he has a dentist appointment tomorrow at 7, because that's a thing that dentists do. And that Mom would not be like, why the fuck do you want to see? Like, this is not a thing anyone does.
Yeah.
The dentist himself calls to schedule an appointment to have Neil come in, or to have Sam come in.
Yeah.
So Sam is concerned about that, and it is concerning. But then we get Neil searching Dad's car and find what?
Before that, though, we get a brother and sister moment, don't we?
No, after he finds the garage door openers.
Okay.
Again, this episode's really funky.
It jumps around. Yeah.
I would have actually led with that, but he did direct some decent shows that I feel like I would remember him more from, but I don't know. Anyway, Neil finds 2 garage door openers, and now he believes Dad might be up to some shenanigans. And now we cut to Sam and Lindsay having an extremely truncated brother and sister scene. I was so excited when the scene started.
Yeah.
And it went to shit and just ended on a gag.
It ended on a gag. It ended on a gag. but I thought it was a funny gag. So they're having a moment, and Sam, again, this is him verbalizing his sort of mental state. Why do people have affairs? Why do people cheat? Do you think Dr. Schreiber would cheat? Do you think that Dad would cheat? And then suddenly Dad appears at the door in his long boxers and white t-shirt with his socks pulled up to his mid-calf, and they both start laughing at him. Again, it's promising scene, ended on a gag, but it's a funny gag. He shows up looking like a dope, just like in the pilot episode. He comes into the kitchen in essentially the same outfit, and they laugh at him. And he's like, well, you buy your own house and you can, wear your tuxedo, or whatever he says in that first episode. So it's an echo of that. But yes, I was also hoping for a longer brother and sister scene because it's so good.
I was also hoping, because Lindsay has thoughts on the issue, and I was hoping it would somehow relate to her plot line. It doesn't at all.
No.
Not at all. Her thinking is that sometimes people are just unhappy and they try to make themselves happy, which is not what we really find out in the next scene, is what the dentist's motivation is. So yes, next morning, Sam is at the dentist, and here is the Marathon Man scene where Neil's dad interrogates him and tells him there's something missing in his life and he deserves to be happy. And then he informs Sam that there's a cavity and that nothing had happened. And it's the least convincing performance of someone doing something ever.
Yeah.
And apparently Sam falls for it. Like, hook, line, and sinker. And I'm just like, how didn't anybody go, this is stupid? Like, did the actors, did the writers, did the director?
Yes and no, but I think that Sam is so young and he is so conflicted, and he doesn't want to believe that Dr. Schreiber, somebody who thinks he's really cool, because he in the first opening scene said, your dad is so cool.
I mean,
I don't think he wants to believe it.
Being cool with him. He's not, pulling his teeth and saying, is it safe? But like, he's intimidating a child.
Yeah. It's not Little Shop of Horrors intimidating, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty intimidating. Yeah. To have this person have power, wield their power over you to try to convince you that they're a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, a much better episode would have been him talking to his mom about it. A much better episode.
Yeah.
More notes for what would make Freaks and Geeks better in general. Treating the mom like a person who has thoughts and opinions. Yeah. What an idea. Next thing you know, she'll want a microwave.
And treating like they're a family. Like they can have these conversations with each other.
Because it's a sitcom.
Yeah.
So the next scene is at school. And Bill and Sam are talking about how they shouldn't have told Neil. And then Neil shows up and is like, nah, man, I found 2 garage door openers. It's fucking true. So, but this is where my note is, how is Sam so obviously stupid?
Yeah. But Sam's like, no. I talked to your dad this morning and
he cleaned my teeth.
He cleaned my teeth. And nobody's like, wait a minute. You went to the dentist before you came to school? Like, that sounds fishy. That sounds like my dad is trying to manipulate you. Nobody says that.
But they've got a plan. And so then we cut to Lindsay and Ken. Ken's out on the field watching the band again, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some of the problem with this episode is it's got too many days before Friday, before they actually have the Laser Dome outing.
But this is Friday, I think. Yeah. Because the next scene, she says, we're going to Laser Dome tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, Lindsay's like, I was talking to Daniel, and he says, you like Amy the tuba girl? And Ken's like, I do. And
Lindsay's like, if I ask her to go to Laser Dome with us tonight, will you be nice to her? Will you not be a shit? Like,
and he's like, yes. And then she says something about trying to nail Amy.
He says, what did Daniel tell you I wanted to nail Amy? And she's like, no, he didn't quite use that word.
Okay. And then, so it's going to be are you going to be nice to her? Yes. And then, okay, yes, because now the geeks, it's after school and the geeks are on their bikes looking for the house, or they cut school because it doesn't matter. But then Bill's wondering when they're going to eat because they told their parents they were going to each other's houses for dinner.
When are we actually going to eat? I'm hungry.
And so Lindsay talks to Amy, the tuba girl, and Amy, the tuba girl's like, who? And then even though Laserdome sucks, she's going to go because the sideburns are cute. Yeah. And then we get a montage of the boys trying the garage door stuff with the Let the Good Times Roll playing in the background. And my note is it took 10 episodes before there's a band in this I actually like in the show. Like, I'm not even a big Let the Good Times Roll fan, but like I at least like the Cars a little bit. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I had the same experience with Madness. I was like, woo! Not some garbage shit.
Classic rock to somebody, I guess. But then we get the Laserdome while the boys are still looking for the garage. And Lindsay's sitting a seat away from Nick. Ken and Amy are there. They have a weird thing where Amy's making fun of it because it seems like she's got a similar personality to Ken, only he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And instead he's like kind of rude to her. And he says, I did pay for you. Like, she's like, I could see this outside for free, man. And he's like, well, you are seeing it for free because I paid for your ticket. And I was just like, it's a little
harsh. Yeah.
You guys could be fun and cute together, but okay. And then Daniel and Kim are being weird. And so there's a whole thing with Amy and Ken. Amy doesn't want to drink, but she will get a hot dog for them. So they're going Dutch on this date, as it turns out.
Well, wouldn't you, if somebody was like, I paid for your ticket? God, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to go get a hot dog. Do you want something? I'll get you something now. I'm not going to give you a handy, so I'm going to get you a hot dog instead.
I was worried they were never going to get to be nice together. They do later, so it's fine. But there's the Daniel and Kim thing. The thing where James Franco tells Kim that she was probably cute in 5th grade, I was like, ooh, that's weird and inappropriate for a high school boy to say too. Like, I think we've got some warning flags for a number of people in this getting passed, including standards and practices for the fucking network. Like, it's not sexualized 5th grade girls, but okay. And so they lean the seats back to snuggle, and then she gets mad because she realizes he probably did that with the girl he finger banged. And that's when we get to the reveal that it's not going to be Pink Floyd. It's Southern Rock Week. And Nick is very upset, and Lindsay finds it funny, and then they both laugh together as they sit a seat apart. And
there's some sort of like confessional, like, I'm sorry, I've been such a bitch to you all week.
That's coming up. Oh, okay. Before that, we get... No, because this is when I was like, wow, they're really trying to manipulate Lindsay into having romantic feelings for Nick, aren't they?
Oh, right.
But first, it's like Daniel telling Nick to make his move or something. But then we get cut to... What?
No, so like I found it creepy and gross. Like, make your move. She's not gonna make out with you because she's, band geek.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I was like,
we haven't had that yet. This was still Daniel giving Nick predatory advice.
Oh, okay.
So we got it. Yeah. Before we get to Daniel giving Ken predatory advice, we have, before James Franco telling his friends how to be sexual predators, we had his real life friends, let's also point out, for years, who've never commented on his behavior, right?
I don't think so.
Anyway, and we're not talking about assaulting the girl on set. We're talking about other stuff. We get to the geeks, and Sam and Bill actually being really shitty to Neil. Like, Neil is still going to look for the garage, and Bill and Sam are like, we got to go, man. Like,
we have to go home. Yeah.
Bill's like, my mom doesn't like watching Dallas alone, which is a nice callback. And then Neil's like, if this was your dad, you wouldn't be in such a hurry. And then he rides off alone with the other geeks looking at him. And I thought that they would go after him. They will not do that. So, but it's okay because this arc gets forgotten next episode. But then this is where we have Daniel giving Ken the advice because it's taking Amy forever to get those hot dogs.
And she comes back with sodas too, by the way, which she had already said she didn't want.
Maybe there was a deal at the fucking Laser Dome, maybe. Yeah, Daniel's like, you're gonna have to make the first move on a band chick, so you just stare at her until there's nothing she can do but kiss you, which is creepy. The advice of the James Franco acting company.
And Ken is like, well, what do I do? Just say, can I kiss you? And he uses a homosexual slur in response. Like,
oh, good. I zoned out for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you missed that. I found that pretty troubling, but it ends up working. The staring thing just makes her feel unsettled. And she's finally like, what the fuck do you want? She doesn't say fuck. And he's like, I want to kiss you, like very awkwardly. And she's like, okay, sure. And then they have this very long makeout, which I found uncomfortable. And she's playing with his sideburns. Oh.
And it's eventually so Lindsay's arc ends with her and Nick talking, and they're like, oh, the music. He's like, the music's not that bad. And I'm like, the music's fucking terrible. It's fucking country music. Stop.
Yeehaw.
No wonder the choices in this show are so bad. This is where Lindsay apologizes for acting like a bitch. And I'm just like, when did you act like a bitch to Nick? You had no scenes with him. Okay. Yeah. You had no scenes alone with him together, whatever. And then
Kim comes back because she sees Ken and Amy making out, and that makes her feel romantic. So she comes back and she starts making out with Daniel, which then leaves Lindsay and Nick in the background with a seat in between them, looking at each other awkwardly. And Nick says something like, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't painful. Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh God, are they just going to force her to kiss him now? Why does he just grab her boob? But we also cut to Sam getting home and his parents rewarding him for being a good kid by giving him the Atari, which is like, what is this tack on? Like, is this a tack on, or was it a cut scene?
So my interpretation of it was that when he comes in and the dad says, your mother and I have something to tell you, I'm thinking he's worried that they're going to get divorced. Yeah. And but there is that element that like, we can spend a little extra money on such a good kid. And it's like, what did he do to be good? He was late again. Like, did he call you? Like, it's dark outside and he's wandering around on his bike.
It was like a resolution for that one, the setup.
Yeah.
About his fears being realized. But then we get to Neil in the garage, which, how did he get into the garage?
What do you mean?
Neil finds his dad's car in the garage, presumably of Blondie, at some apartment thing.
Yeah.
How did the car get into the garage? And didn't Dad notice that he didn't have his fucking remote?
Yeah. So the lady let him in. I mean,
okay. And Dad didn't think anything of it.
Or, it's like, oh, it must have fallen out at some point. I'll look for it later.
And
he's too busy. He's got something else on his mind.
Okay.
Duh.
Okay. What I was expecting and was very happy did not happen was Neil opened the garage to find the mom fucking her tennis pro. And we would be like, it's the ladies who are actually doing it. Because that's how this episode, I thought they were going to take this.
Oh, I did kind of think that with Mom because she's very pretty. She's got her little tennis dress on, which it's just a tennis dress. It's the official wear of the sport, but it does have like a sexual vibe to it because it is so short. And the mom is sophisticated and da 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 da. And there is like an air of like, yeah, there is in my brain, there's an opportunity there for the mom to also have an affair.
So yeah. And then he throws the remote in and the episode's over.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Life lessons episode.
There may be more on that in coming episodes. It might come back around. But for the next episode, Chokin' and Token, we forget that subplot even happened. Things seem to be fine with all the kids. What are your 3 things?
Oh my God, Maureen is back. $137 worth of pot. And God's taking care of me.
Oh man. I have consistency. I have trust me, my dad's a dentist. And I have, this is backwards, by the way. I'm just going to say Leslie Mann. We're going to talk about Leslie Mann a little
bit. That's good. Yeah.
And we can do that first, or the first in the line of my thing. I didn't take really great notes for this, but I've got a lot of fun questions.
The episode opens with like a completely filler. I guess it's setting up Nick being a pothead, but it's this long scene about like them being shitty to the lunch lady about the Salisbury steak. And I'm just kind of like, dude, you are lucky that there's not shit in your food the way that you are treating these, like, good God.
She seems to be fairly unfazed. Not that it's good that they're treating her like that, but it's also belabored because you kind of cut to this long line of kids and they seem to be impatiently waiting as if they have been standing there for a while. And we enter mid-conversation with stoned Nick asking about what Salisbury steak is. Do they reuse the meat? I've noticed that this is the order in which you serve, meals day to day. And are you just reusing the meat? Which is a stupid conversation, but whatever, he's stoned. And it's like, I wonder what the conversation was leading up to that all of these kids are so impatient. They're so,
Yeah. But Nick goes and sits down. There's something with Daniel and another kid about the Salisbury steak. And then Lindsay shows up and she's like, we're supposed to go to Denny's, man. And he's like, I can eat. I'm stoned. I've got report cards in 2 weeks. I need to be as stoned as I can before that happens. But then we find out there's no pot in town right now, right?
Yeah.
Fuzzy hair guy that's been in the show.
So far unnamed, but now he's Mark. And the actor's name is Mark. So
there's actually this interesting thing where Millie's there and she sees him and she's just like, she knows what's up with him.
Yeah.
But oh no, shit, here we go. We get the scene with the Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels,
great opening scene where Dad wants to know which of the angels Sam wants to bang. Now, mind you, they're watching this with their mom and sister. And he says he likes the show for Bosley.
For Bosley, yeah.
And Dad says that's not allowed.
He's like, well, sure, he's funny, but he's no Kate Jackson. Like, nobody watches the show for Bosley. Sam's like, I do.
Lindsay's like, well, he's in love with Cindy Sanders. And then we get Sam sad about that. And
mom doing the mom thing that, oh, well, she's the one missing out, honey.
Yeah, not after this episode. So Dad gives him some advice that he should go out there and test some waters.
But Lindsay is not allowed to until she's married.
When she gets married, little slut.
Ugh.
Now, mind you, they already had an episode where they implied the parents were okay with Lindsay, trusting Lindsay with her, quote unquote, trusting her with the decision about her virginity.
Yeah.
That's gone. Now she has to wait till she's married if she wants to test any waters. So, here we go. Oh, I was going to use this as my thing. The Cindy ship has sailed. It's time to board a new vessel.
Oh.
To which I said, get a fresh horse, because there's a movie called Fresh Horses with Molly Ringwald and Andrew McCarthy from 1988. And it gets a good review in Leonard Maltin, who also wrote about how fun it is to ogle Jennifer Connelly. This movie, Fresh Horses, is about, the girls are fresh horses. Girls are horses. Once you use one up, you get a fresh one. And you don't want one that somebody else has ridden too long. That's what that fucking movie is. It's terrible. Ben Stiller's in it. It's directed by David Anspaugh. Fuck that movie. gross.
That
So
is gross. That is
and
gross.
really gross for 1988 too.
Yeah.
Like that's not still like and anyway. Next scene is, oh my God, Maureen is back. Oh my God.
And
she actually came back.
She actually came back. And there's this funny scene before we meet her where the geeks are approached by Alan, the bully. And he asks something like, oh, do you want a bag of nuts or something? And then he bag taps Bill so hard and Bill doubles over, and it is stupid teenage prank stuff, but it is comedy genius. Just that bag tap. Oh my God. I don't even have that down there. And I can feel his pain. And my husband and I have been watching this video over and over of this professional wrestler has this son, and he's all dressed. The son, he's like 3 years old. He's all dressed up in like a small version of his dad's gear, whatever gimmick he's got going on. And, he's like running around on the couch and like, blah, blah, blah. And he just like punches dad square in the nuts. And this big tough guy just doubles over. And the mom who's filming it just cannot stop laughing. So it reminded me of that, except it's not a cute 3-year-old. It's a bully.
Remember, was it The Simpsons that observed that American comedy is just watching guys get hit in the nuts?
America's Funniest Home Videos. Like those were the funniest ones. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that started in 88. So it was like a direct comment on that. Anyway, so there you go. Hope your husband wears a cup. Anyway. But yes, so then Maureen is back, and so is Vicky, who we have not seen, who was the head cheerleader that we have not seen for a few episodes. Yeah. Cindy is not going to be in this episode. They just talk about her behind her back. Anyway, but Maureen's back. She's still like cool with the geeks, but like she's hanging with Cindy or Vicky now because apparently she's a cheerleader, but missed the cheerleading episode.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to class.
And Vicky, at this point, has no interest in Maureen having a conversation with the geeks and ushers her away very quickly. Yes. Which will be important later because that's part of my inconsistency comment.
Yes. So they go to class and the teacher is Leslie Mann.
I love her.
I miss her. I wanted to not like her when I was watching when you told me she was in this. I wanted to be like, yeah, man, I don't care. She was good in George of the Jungle, but fuck it, who cares? Who cares that she stopped making movies to breed Apatow children?
So I had made the joke to you about nepotism, because they were married at this point, her and Apatow. But like I rewatched it and I was like, God, I love her. She's so good. She kind of plays the same character, but she's just very gentle and sweet and nice. And her being pretty doesn't hurt, but it's not the core of it.
She's like I don't know that she would have done it does not seem like she would have gone the okay with objectification Cameron Diaz route.
Yeah.
But she's kind of like a mix of Lori Petty without being annoying and being a better actor. Sorry, whatever. Fuck you. We'll watch Point Break. I don't care. Like, bring it. Stop making that face at me. Stop it. Next season, Point Break. Fine. I'm going to make you fucking watch Point Break and we're going to pause it. You can tell me every time Lori Petty's good. Anyway, fine. Jesus. Weird. Awkward. Anyway, from what?
Respect your opinion.
Love Lori Petty. What do you love Lori Petty from?
I respect your opinion.
One thing.
Tank Girl.
Never seen it. Something else.
You need to watch Tank Girl. Never seen it. Fuck you. Sorry.
And this is all being left in. This is all being left
absolutely,
in. Yes,
absolutely.
Okay. So anyway, but we can shit on Cameron Diaz. That's okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fine.
I just watched a clip of her on Graham Norton and I was like, ugh, she's so not funny. It's like best of Graham Norton and it's like Cameron Diaz is on it. It's not best.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Leslie Mann is so good that I'm like, do I need to watch This Is 40? Like, yeah, maybe I do.
She's so good.
So good immediately. And I was like, oh, damn it. Like, because I remember distinctly in the late 90s, she did a bit part in She's the one. Ed Burns' second movie, which nobody should see because it's one of his misogyny. It's part of the misogyny duet. And then she was in George of the Jungle as the girlfriend, and she was fucking great. And then she disappeared.
She was in an Adam Sandler movie too, wasn't she? She was in the one where he gets the kid, something like that.
I don't remember. I stopped seeing Adam Sandler by that time. I'm a little bit more mature than you.
Yeah, you are. You're older.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, so she's introducing the class, and it's clear Bill's got a crush on her. He's just mooning at her.
Yeah.
And then she like has allergies, and so he tells her all about his allergies. And I didn't write down all of them, but I got bees, cats, some dogs, air, and
I got air too. And I was like, what is that?
And then he shares that Neil has emphysema.
Oh, eczema or
eczema.
Psoriasis.
Okay,
psoriasis. It's like, in my mind, that's like an old man disease, so it fits perfectly.
Yeah. He has psoriasis, which is lizard skin.
Lizard skin, yeah.
And then Sam passes out if he even thinks about blood, which has the geeks embarrassed, Maureen and Vicky laughing at them, and Alan thinking this is all very funny.
Yeah.
But the teacher, Leslie Mann, thinks it's adorable, and she just thinks it's all cool. And so after class, Neil's upset that Neil and Sam are very upset that he embarrassed them.
Yeah.
And so there's the geeks subplot for them is going to be that they were like kind of a shitty friend to Bill this episode.
And also suddenly, because of that brief incident in the hallway earlier where Vicky essentially rips Maureen away from them, they don't want to be geeks anymore.
Right.
They want to do cool stuff so the cheerleaders will like them. They just don't want to do it anymore. And it's verbalized over and over and over again.
Do you want to be a geek your whole life?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty harsh.
Yeah. So, but we're going to cut over to we got to set up the Freaks plot line, which is.
So Nick can't get his hands on any weed, as we've mentioned before. And it turns out Daniel and Ken also don't have weed, except Daniel's holding out on Nick. They are suddenly recognizing that Nick has a problem.
And weed is bad, and it is going to keep you from being a productive member of society. Daniel's got a whole shtick on it. Daniel
is going to throw his stash away, which is a fairly good amount of weed, if I remember correctly. And he and Ken sort of fight over the weed for a second. But they are interrupted very quickly by Jeff Rosso, who takes the weed from them and then come see me in my office. Although he doesn't say when, just come see me in my office. Yeah. And they just magically know when to show up.
Of course.
Is there anything else that I'm forgetting about that? So Kim's not in this one.
There's a scene. No, Kim's oddly absent, but there is a scene where Nick and Lindsay. Does Lindsay say he's saving money on eye drops? I think it's at lunch, but Nick is miserable at this point.
And they decide
forced sobriety.
And they decide to cut class. Lindsay suggests we'll go do something fun. And there's a really there's a really nice scene where they're playing basketball together. Like he's goofing around and being really good, and she's goofing around and being less good. And it's a nice scene. They seem to be actually having a good time. Nick seems to be distracted from his, cannabis break.
Yeah, but that's after.
Oh, sorry. I skipped way ahead.
You skipped way ahead. Before that, we have so before that, we have more with Bill and the Geeks. There's a sci-fi convention, but first we have class where Leslie Mann makes a joke about the peanut being Bill's mortal enemy, and everybody laughs except Bill. And then after class, Leslie Mann's like, "Is everything okay?" And Bill's like, "That allergy talk makes me look like a geek." And she's like, "Okay, I'm sorry."
So he's taking his friend's comments very personally now.
Yes,
which is fucking ridiculous.
which makes sense because the next scene is going to them being really shitty to him. So it's sci-fi convention weekend. They'd all made all sorts of plans, except now Sam and Neil are like, we're not going. We're going to watch a cheerleading competition. Maureen invited us. That's what we are now. We're the cheerleading squad, cheer boys or something. And then they say, and I thought this was super fucking shitty and really worked back some of the stuff they'd done in the previous episodes. Why don't you just ask Gordon to go with you?
Yeah. He likes sci-fi conventions. And then Gordon does the hacky, like, I don't like sci-fi conventions. I love them. But he's very enthusiastic about it. It's a hacky joke, but, I mean, I advocate anybody having that enthusiasm.
It'd be fine. Yeah. So next scene is that basketball scene, which ends with the drug dealer showing up and the pot dealer showing up and getting and selling Nick some pot. And this was my $137 of pot note. It's $40 for the bag.
Yeah.
In $1980, that's $137 today. If you can afford, I can't afford a bag of pot that's $137. If you can afford that, Nick's like a fucking, there's some other issues going on, right?
Where does he get that money? He doesn't work. If he's that addicted, I mean, he seemingly, from what we can tell, is going through pot like crazy.
You also can't be addicted to pot. It does not cause the physiology. I mean, we're going to get into a lot of this stuff. Like one of my texts to you was, I want to make Seth Rogen watch this episode now after he spent 15 years being a public pot advocate.
Yeah.
Because this is it's a godly anti-pot episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they pissed off somebody and made a deal to insert this episode into the series. It's an after school special.
Yeah.
With some subtext later. But so at this point, Nick's got his pot and he's like, let's go get stoned, Lindsay. And she's like, I don't want to smoke pot. And then he's like, you got to try. It's from the earth, man. You're all about that shit. Why would it be here if it wasn't for this?
She says, dog shit's there and we don't smoke that.
So they go and they smoke pot, and then Lindsay's not having any fun because all they're doing is laying around on their backs, and he's like got the munchies. And I'm just like, this is not a very, and I guess, yes, you were never going to have an accurate representation of people getting stoned, but like this would be the point where if I was a stoner who thought this show spoke to me, and these were the 2000 episodes. This is the episode where they just fucking sell out. Like this is a sellouts episode.
Yeah.
But only in this plot. The other plot's actually great.
Yes. So, the other plot's fine.
It's such a, yeah.
So Nick gets kind of mad at her because she gets a little up. No, I don't want to say uppity. That's a bad word. She gets a little high and mighty, right? And she's like, this isn't fun at all. This is fucking boring. And Nick goes on like, and says like, you didn't even smoke enough and you didn't even inhale. Because she doesn't actually look stoned, as opposed to later, not to spoil, well, we were going to spoil. She gets really stoned and she looks it. She's acting, again, exaggeratedly stoned. So I'm guessing that she didn't actually inhale it and that she's not actually stoned and she's actually bored because she's not experiencing being stoned.
If he smoked a lot of pot, there would be a contact high. Would be the other problem.
That's true.
Like it is the,
because you never actually see them because it's network television.
Yeah. So I mean, it is not quite reefer madness levels of bullshit, but it's in that ballpark, which is just where you're just like, okay, guys, cool guys. But then we get to lunch the next day or the same day, because who the fuck knows with this show how anything works. And Bill is eating.
Well, they did cut class, so one could assume that they are still in school.
Okay, so it is the same day. So Bill is eating alone, and is this where he has to ask his friends if they're still going to sit with him, and they act shitty and say yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. But before that, Alan is sitting over there with one of his pals, and is like, "Let's see if Bill's lying." And so at that point, we find out they're going to fucking put peanuts in it, and it's like inevitable. But first, Bill goes and tells Gordon he can't go to sci-fi for some reason.
Because he's being shitty to Gordon now. He's kind of picked up on this I don't want to be geek thing. Yeah. And so he's kind of being shitty to Gordon, but he's being nice enough about it. I mean, he lies, but he's not being cruel like the other two.
He doesn't say, he's not.
I don't want to be a fucking dork like you, Gordon. Like,
right. So at that point, the other geeks come by and Bill's like, are you still going to sit with me? And they're like, pshaw, of course we are. Like,
we're too hungry to find somewhere else to sit.
Yeah. So he sits down, they start eating. And then Bill's like, oh, wait, this is a crunchy, peanutty crunchy sandwich. And his first reaction is, did you put some in my sandwich? And they're like, no. But also, I'm just kind of like, we've gotten to the point where he thinks his friends just tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
They kind of crack a little bit of a joke about it too. But like once they realize that Alan did it, that Alan put something in his sandwich, their faces drop.
Yeah.
Like the acting in that scene is pretty great.
And then from across the room, Alan calls out, what happens now?
Yeah.
Haverchuck. And what happens is Bill's being rushed to an ambulance through the hallways of the school.
With Miss Foot right beside him, holding his hand.
And then Claudia Christian plays his mom at the hospital. She's great.
She's great.
Yeah. And like, it's also the first time mom gets to have an honest conversation in episode. Mom gets to have an honest conversation in episodes.
Is it the first time we see Bill's mom? This is the first time, right? Yeah.
And is Bill still alive is the question that people are asking. And Neil asks if he's still alive. And then Sam's like, he's not dead, is he? Or something.
He's not going to die, is he?
Which causes mom to break out in tears and Neil to explain, you don't say anybody's going to die in the hospital. You just ask if they're alive, man.
Trust me, my dad's a dentist. That's what he says. As if, well, whatever. It's kind of funny, but it's also... whatever.
These did not air in order, but anyway, there's nothing about, trust me, my dad's a dentist and he knows this because he stips the hygienist. So we cut to Rosso, the meeting with Rosso, which is, I just don't understand the scared straight scene here.
Yeah.
Rosso has invited his pothead friend over. And so, okay, the show's set in 1980. We can still say in 1980 that smoking pot does irreparable damage to you and you can no longer form a coherent sentence. This show came out in the year 2000. People had met Woody Harrelson. They had met Willie Nelson, right?
Yeah.
Instead, Rosso's informing Daniel and Ken that if they keep smoking pot, this is all that's going to happen for them is they're just going to be these stoner losers.
When in reality, this guy has some cognitive issue, or he's dropped acid too many times, or there are other things that he could have done. And maybe he smoked weed too, but the weed did not do this to him. It's something else. Right. It's something else.
There's no acknowledgement of that.
There's no acknowledgement of it. But I had two questions about that. What did Rosso do with the weed? Did he keep it for himself? Did he sell it to Frank or whatever that guy's name was? Like, what happened to that weed, Mr. Rosso?
Because he's not going to kick him out for it.
Yeah, he decides, he says he's not going to kick him out. He's going to give him another chance. And there was a great exchange, a great opportunity for Ken to be snarky, where Rosso's like, Daniel says, honestly, Mr. Rosso, I was trying to get rid of it. Like, I don't want the weed anymore. And Ross was like, do I look stupid to you? And Ken's like, do you honestly want me to answer that? I thought that was funny. That was funny.
What's your other question about that scene?
Those are my questions. What did he do with the weed? And did he sell it to that guy? Because, that guy's his friend, allegedly a former student, but that guy's his friend.
That he's exploiting.
Yeah. That guy's his dirtbag friend. So
weird.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the requirements to make the network happy was that Rosso had to be in the plot.
Yeah.
But then we get to Nick telling Lindsay, I don't need pot, man. So he just throws her the pot. And he's like, you take it. And now we get to the hospital scene. So this is actually interesting when we think about it later with the godliness later on. But it's the geeks talking about what's going to happen if Bill dies and how fun it would be if his ghost haunted them and they would have a ghost friend. And then they realize, no, he'd just be dead and gone.
So there's this interesting thing because it's the second episode. It's the one I just watched to take notes on like minutes before we started recording, where they are talking about like Casper, the friendly ghost. He's going to hang out. He's going to tell us jokes. Nobody else will be able to see him. So they're going to think we're nuts. And Sam is doing his cute little laugh that he does. And then like the sound kind of cuts to the mom crying. And they realize that it's not going to be that way. They're not going to have this fun ghost friend. Bill's just not going to be around to hang out with anymore. And they realize kind of the gravity of the situation in that moment, which I thought was great. A great little clip because they've been so shitty to him. Like, fuck them. And fuck them for like goofing around about dead Bill. Like, but they are 14. Okay. They are 14.
They're going to get really shitty in a second here. But before that, there's like a scene with the geeks talking shit about, or not the geeks, Nick talking about how Lindsay's too perfect for pot. Yeah. But then we cut to Lindsay smoking pot in her bedroom.
There's a long scene of her trying to roll a joint, and I sympathize. I cannot. If I tried to roll a joint, I would not be able to. Yeah.
Too much work. But Dad walks in on her when she's stoned. And we forgot to mention there's a whole babysitting subplot where she doesn't want to babysit for these people who don't pay enough. It was during the Charlie's Angels thing. But she forgot to go babysit. He forgot his wallet. They're both confused that the other one's home at that time. So did she cut school to go home and smoke pot? What is going on? But the result is she's like, Dad, I've got woman problems. And he's like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. And I was just like,
get out of jail free card for her, though. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
Like, even today, is there a network show where a dad isn't shitty to his daughter about Eve's curse?
No, it is a get out of jail free card. Let me tell you, I have used that. I mean, whether or not
it's a get out of jail free card, but his reaction is I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of it being a get out of jail free card, it's a
deeply misogynistic.
Because your dad's a bad dad.
Yeah, deeply misogynistic. But I will take advantage of it if I need to.
All right. Moving on to the geeks. We're back at the hospital, and this is where Alan shows up with his dad. Ooh. And it starts with one of those scenes where you're just like, oh, my bully really just was bullied by his dad. There's nothing like deep about this. Mm-mm. It's just he had a shitty dad who treated him like shit. And so he picks on somebody that he can pick on.
Yep.
And that's what we see here, except Dad's not unjustified because his son tried to kill somebody.
His son almost committed homicide, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
And so they go, and Alan asks if he can apologize to Bill. Alan confesses to the mom.
And the mom
apologize to Bill. And she's like, he's in fucking critical condition, dude. No, he's not conscious, you little shit.
Yeah. And it's both satisfying because she is kind of cutting him down, but I think she could have gone harder. I think she could have gone harder.
But I mean,
again, it's just a kid, but a kid who put her son's life in danger.
Buddy the Christian's so good in this episode.
Oh,
she should have gotten a fucking guest star Emmy. Like, that's how good she is.
She was really good.
Yeah, she's really, really good. And it's kind of unfair to Weir Mom because it shows you that they actually could have written the adults a lot better than they did, but they copped out.
But they have a good little interaction.
They do have a good talk, which we'll talk about. But first, we have Lindsay once again just going into Millie's house.
Yep.
And being like, I need your help, man. And Millie's like, you
sound like my husband making fun of me when I get stoned. He's like, what, man? He always makes fun of me. And it's like, I'm just trying to sleep, brother.
your husband, brother. He's going to call you mad. What are you going to do? Okay. So she's like, how could you tell? And I'm like, you could tell because you cut your fucking pothead cousin Kevin Corrigan out of the family when he might have needed help earlier in the season. But instead, she's like, I went to a Seals and Croft concert, Lindsay.
I thought that was so funny.
It was
I thought that was funny.
Like, continuity.
Yeah.
So, but Millie's going to help her with the babysitting. So
just
that's cool.
For the sake of the child.
For the child. She
is so righteous, so self-righteous in this.
We haven't even gotten
to it yet. Ugh.
But first, we have this amazing scene where Alan sneaks into Bill's hospital room, and he confesses that some of the reason that he's a shit to them now, since his balls have dropped further than theirs have, is that they weren't cool to him in the 4th grade when he was still a geek.
Yeah.
And he's like, I like comics and sci-fi too. You never asked me if I want to hang out.
Yeah.
And of course, Bill is unconscious for all of this. And he ends it with, please don't die. And it's
a good scene.
It's a good scene. It's a good scene for Alan.
And it's him acting against nothing. I mean, essentially, Bill is there, but Bill can't respond.
No, it's a very good scene for that kid.
And he thinks that Bill is sleeping. Well, I mean, Bill is, in a coma, essentially.
Right. So then we get to the babysitting intro, which is we get the parents giving all the instructions and the introduction to the kid. And Lindsay can't handle it because she's fucking stoned, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to listen to the fucking Eagles right now. I've had a rough night.
I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
I hate the fucking Eagles. Okay. So Lindsay sneaks off to the bathroom, leaving Millie to take the instructions. And that's where we're at there. And now we get to the scene that had me texting you about how second season was actually just Neil and Nick roofing Lindsay and both of them looking at her naked and not stopping the other one. Because they get there or the girls, Maureen and Vicky, come and they're really worried about Bill.
Suddenly they're very upset about Bill.
Okay, I get Maureen, and with Vicky, maybe she's just a bitchy high school kid and not a piece of shit. That's also she doesn't have enough character for us to know. Neither does Maureen at this point.
Yeah. What is so Maureen wraps herself around Sam, and Vicky puts her hand on Neil's shoulder to kind of console them. And they're just sort of awkwardly looking at each other like, oh my God, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen?
We got us some chicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just kind of
we've got these pretty girls hanging all over us.
Fuck yeah.
While our best friend is laying in a coma in a hospital bed. Cool.
I mean, it's an opportunity for a sincere human connection for either of them, but nope, it's all about the cheerleaders. This is where we get to the scene with the moms, which is excellent. Where Claudia Christian's talking about how it's all her fault. And then Weir Mom, whose name is Jean, which I don't remember from any other episodes.
I think, well, I mean, a dad refers to her as Jean, I think, occasionally, but not.
I thought he just called her Cook.
Or mother.
Don't use that microwave, mother. So they have this, it's a really nice moment where, Claudia Christian's confessing to all the fucking drugs she did with Bill. And she's like, we didn't know anything then. And when you do the math, they didn't know anything then.
Yeah.
But then Gene confesses to dropping Sam on his head when he was a baby or some shit. And it's just and
it makes them both laugh.
Makes them both laugh. It just relieves the tension.
Yeah.
It's because wonderful moment of human fellowship, of sincere human connection,
and it gives the mother a little bit more character. I mean, it for
once, I'm sure it'll be gone by next week. But then we get to this is where this subplot was really funny. Was that Lindsay's freaking out babysitting, and so she's reading all about pot and an encyclopedia in a world book because they needed something for her.
And it is this belabored scene of her using her finger to track the words that she's reading. And you don't see her reading it, but you hear her voice reading it. So she's reading it in her head, or I don't know. I think it's a good direction because it makes me think it makes me feel like I'm going out of my mind a little bit. Like it makes me feel like I don't know what's happening. She's reading very quickly, but her lips aren't moving. Oh my God, what's happening? Ugh. And it seems a lot longer of an article than I would think would be in a World Book Encyclopedia.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't check, but I feel like yes, especially for 1980.
Yeah.
But then the kid comes in and is like, found you.
Yeah. And the kid is somebody. The kid is somebody. So he was a child actor, but he ended up, I don't know if you watched Weeds, oddly enough. Yes, he was the younger brother in Weeds, like the little kid in Weeds. Cool. Yeah. A few years later.
Yes, I guess this is a pre-Weeds pot show.
Yeah.
So I guess we hadn't had the revolution of people making a pot show and admitting that they've smoked pot.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's going to be this funny thing where Lindsay's freaking out because she's babysitting and she doesn't want to hang
kid's
out with
freaking her out.
Man. Yeah. It's too much for her. She goes out to see to see Millie, and Millie's going to take care of her. And she's like, why is Nick high all the time? This is terrible. Millie's like, it's because he's unhappy.
God, the scene has so much potential to be a good scene between the two of them, where they talk about their concerns as teenage girls and, life and the universe and everything. But Millie just takes it a whole nother direction because you got to.
The show takes it a whole nother direction.
Okay. The character is written to take it another direction.
Yes. And that direction is to God.
Can I tell you that getting stoned and being having an evangelical Christian talk to you about how you're unhappy and that it's God's world, and if you just recognized God, you would be happy, or a different kind of unhappy? Because at some point,
feed her a shellfish so she can go to hell is what I would say in that situation.
It's like
get a shellfish, put it in her mouth, she can go to hell.
This is like a nightmare for me.
Yeah,
I'm stoned, I'm freaking out, and you're talking about God? No.
Yep. And it gets so much worse in a way later. And so Lindsay's like, I don't believe in God. And Millie's like, that's why you're unhappy.
Yep.
So then we get to Bill waking up in the hospital. Everybody's very happy to see him. Mom tells him that Dad was worried about him, to which Bill's like, he was?
Yeah.
And Mom's like, yeah, dude, of course he was. What are you talking about? Which is actually nice because we have not established that Bill's dad gives a shit about him at all.
Yeah.
And then they talk, and then this is where Sam and Neil confess that they were always going to go to the sci-fi convention with him, and they were just pretending to be shitty. But is this also where they tell him about the girls, and he says you can pretend, so you can keep the girls? Yeah. So that's cool.
So, but there's also, when he first comes out of it, and the adults leave the room, the two boys are talking to him, and they're like, Bill, are you okay? And he's like, I've got the taste of bacon in my mouth, but that always happens when I pass out. It's just this non sequitur that I find so funny. He reminds me of this character. I guess it's probably a pretty standard character, but from Home Movies, the Adult Swim adult cartoon show, where John Benjamin plays Jason Panopoulos, who's younger than the other two kids, and then he's also the gross one who's always got snot dripping down, and he's got not psoriasis but eczema. He's always talking about how cheese backs him up. Bill is the Jason Panopoulos kind of the show, where he always says these gross things and just doesn't care, and it makes me laugh every time. It always happens when I pass out. It's just the taste of bacon. Hey, I'll take it. Could be worse.
So this is where we then get Millie. So we cut back to Lindsay being stoned. She's talking again to Millie about how they used to be such good friends and do such fun things together, and how much they like stuff. And why aren't we friends anymore? And Millie's like, I thought we were. Lindsay's like, well, we are, but it's different now. And it's because Lindsay's different now.
Yeah.
And then Millie says, What makes me sad is that when you're not stoned anymore, and I was waiting for her to be like, you're not going to remember that we're best friends. Instead, she fucking says, you're not going to believe in God anymore. And I'm just like, this fucking, like, what the fuck proselytizing anti-pot bullshit is this episode?
It's like they didn't have the money. It's like the Ed Wood thing where he didn't have the money to make the movie, so he got it from some Christian organization, but they made him take all the zombies out and made them cast like the pastor's son. Right. And it's kind of like that. That's what it feels like a public service announcement, or they made a deal with somebody that they were going to do an anti-pot episode where all the freaks suddenly decide they don't want to do pot anymore for no reason.
Because it's bad for you. It cuts down on your productivity in the workplace, in the future workforce, man.
Capitalism.
I mean, James Franco probably did vote for Trump, so like, let's be real here. Anyway, so then we get the scene where Alan goes in to apologize to an awake Bill. And it starts with Alan being really shitty about the apology. And then Bill informs him that he heard everything Alan said. Mm-hmm. And they have this devastating scene together where Bill's like, I mean, you can come with us. It's fine. Fucking choked up.
I know. He's so sweet about it. He's like,
so nice. It's just so good. Like,
you told me you thought I was cool. I remember. I heard it. You said you thought I was cool.
So good. And then Bill invites him to the sci-fi convention. He's like, look, man, you can just come over.
We're meeting at 10. Show up.
Just come over.
Yep.
And as they leave, Alan's like, very sincerely apologizes. And Bill's just like, just don't do it again. Perfect scene. No notes. Martin Starr. Then we get Lindsay getting home and saying she's never going to babysit for them again, blah, 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 whatever. And we cut to Bill and Miss Foot. Miss Foot is
that's right. I forgot about
visiting Bill, so we can get one more scene with Leslie Mann, and it's fine. Like, I don't know, like it's going to set Bill up for some unfulfillable expectations for life, but Leslie Mann visits. Though I don't know, Martin Starr versus Judd Apatow, who's better looking? Not Judd Apatow. I mean, anyway. But then we cut to the boys getting ready for
hanging out outside, getting ready to go to the sci-fi convention, all in their costumes, except Gordon, because he doesn't want to look like an idiot all day.
He's a loser, but it's Bill is got a Doctor Who costume for Almost Dying.
That was funny. Was funny. Like, oh, my mom got it for me because I almost died. And it's like,
and then Sam's got a really good Luke Tatooine costume, and Neil's got a Yoda costume that's not good.
It's just really, it's like Kelly green paint on his face.
Yeah.
Did he have ears and like
he had big ear? Yeah, it was.
And then a brown.
Why they wouldn't have done a Spock?
Yeah.
Since he did impressions.
And like, George Takei is going to be there. So
George Takei is going to be. I mean, we're probably lucky they didn't do Yellowface. Let's be real. So anyway, Alan bikes up on his fucking dork ass bike that he had a few seasons ago with the seat in the back. Yeah. And he can't do it. And like,
it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, but it's also not the best execution of the heartbreaking, because he like bikes away and there's like people on the street and shit, and it's just like, it's a very sitcom-y ending to it. Like, it's heartbreaking, but it's also not well executed. So, but half a great episode, probably their best episode.
Really?
Maybe? Like, I can't think of anything else that was that good that much.
Yeah.
The pilot was really good, but that was back when Lindsay was like the protagonist. I don't fucking remember that. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So my biggest problem with this episode is just the inconsistency, like, of the characters. Vicky has been portrayed as being the bitchy cheerleader, super controlling and da-da-da-da-da. And in this episode, seemingly showed disdain for the geeks. And then suddenly, maybe Maureen has had a positive influence on her.
That's my thing is that, and this is the problem of them not keeping Maureen as a real supporting character is, the Maureen we met would not have hung out with terrible Vicky. Right? So like that's a whole thing. And that's kind of the problem with having something with this many characters in and out, not keeping track of their stories. Like the supporting cast on this show has less character development than the underpaid nursing staff on ER, right? Like the ER nurses who, besides Julianne Margulies infamously got paid shit, they actually had like character arcs because they were in every episode. And so they were around all the time. The supporting cast on this show comes in and comes out, comes in and comes out, comes in and comes out. Alan has never regrown his hair, which he lost in the second or third episode because of lice or something.
Yeah, there was a lice joke.
But he started it with, very good hair, right? Like, so it's just so inconsistent with stuff. And I get that it's like a problem with that big of a cast, but also it's not that a problem with that big of a cast.
Yeah.
Because ER did that, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you don't have ER money? Well, they didn't pay those nurses any money either. So it's like, you could have figured it out. But that is also the problem is you have young actors who are like breaking out. Like you're not going to have Ben Foster. He's a fucking movie star at this point. Right. Like, so there's that kind of thing. But yeah, I thought that I was willing to give it the extra thing. Cause I mean, here's the thing is having a kid go into anaphylactic shock in the middle of your fucking lunchroom. They could have done a whole episode about how that affected the entire lunchroom. Right? Like, what about the kid that Alan was sitting with? Like,
and they could have used Rosso, right, as the counselor. I mean, he could have been.
Rosso's never interacted with the geeks other than to say hi to Sam like a couple times. Like, Rosso does not care about helping the younger. He's not a good guidance counselor to the younger kids.
No.
It's So I mean, there is the inconsistency problem, but also where the fuck was Kim, right? So. But I thought, just like in terms of acting, lots of good acting.
Lots of good acting. Martin Starr from Alan, the kid who played Alan, was really good. And it gave him an opportunity to be good. I mean, he's just been a shit since, from the beginning. So it gave him the opportunity. That was really nice. The Freaks didn't really have much good acting except for Linda Cardellini, I guess, just acting like she's
stoned,
like a step down from Reefer Madness, like you said. I mean, it's just so over the top. But she's doing it alone, and she doesn't have anybody to like bring her back to a good place. Not that it's like fucking acid or that you need somebody to hold your hand like ayahuasca or something. I don't
know, because this episode convinced me that if you smoke pot, you are going to have brain damage and. And as an example,
scared straight. And I mean, weed in the 70s and 80s wasn't as strong.
It's not, right. It's not even as strong
as it is now.
So it's just like,
how much did she smoke?
Oregano or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many reasons that this is just like. Well, the other thing is, it's not like they actually tried to do a good episode about weed and teens. Like, they just did a Christian-themed anti-pot message, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
Yep. Yeah. It was weird. But some good. A lot of good. I think the good outweighed the bad in this one. So next week we have, let me make sure this is right. Oh, we're skipping around a little bit. So Chokin' and Token came out March 20th, 2000. The next episode is Smoochin' and Moochin'. Jake Kasdan directed that one. It came out in July. And then The Little Things came out on the same day. Oh, don't read the plot for that one.
Okay.
The Little Things, another Jake Kasdan directed episode. So that'll be interesting. Oh man, we're gonna have a lot to say about that. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that'll be episodes.
Are either of these the episode that you told me that was great?
It's going to be like the last.
Does that episode exist? Or
yes, it does.
Okay, just wondering.
It'll be not next week, but the week after that. We'll talk about that one. And we might need to do 3 episodes because I think there's 3 episodes left somehow.
There are 18 episodes, aren't there?
Yeah. What? I'm confused. Okay. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll get this straightened out.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.